worse the joke, the longer the laughter.
that, that was a good one.
That is, of course, a quote from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which we'll be covering today on the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. I, as always, am a character called Sinister Boy.
Hello, everyone. I am a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Spranks.
All right, I'm going to be hosting today, and if you haven't guessed the theme, I guess, of this season, it's the one of at least a bad thing that you have seen in media, I guess, really. And I chose Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I guess we'll start off just by going through our history of, I guess, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers in general. Just to get a feel for it. I guess I will go with Geeky Writer first.
Yeah. So I always confuse this show with another show growing up called Rescue Heroes. So no, I have no experience with this show or any of its characters whatsoever. But I'll tell you what the movie did do. It didn't give me any inspiration to go back to watch them.
There you go.
All right. I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
Like writer. Well, I didn't get confused, but I think it's a kid that did enjoy Rescue Rangers.
That was Rescue Heroes.
Rescue Heroes. Darn it, I got it wrong.
I said it like 2 seconds ago, dude.
I don't care. That's what I do. But for this, Chip and Dale, very limited experience. I only really have interacted with them through video games, being the Disneyland Connect game and Kingdom Hearts 2. Very limited through both of those. Did not watch the show. And I don't think I've seen anything else. I don't know what else they've been in outside their own show. So that's about it. First time seeing this movie.
What a time it was, I'm sure. Sprinks?
Well, my history with the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers show is I knew of it, but never watched it. I was more of a DuckTales guy. With Chip and Dale in general, I always thought them as pretty much close to the Centennial Six with, Mickey, Goofy, Donald, Daisy, Minnie, and Pluto. I thought they were pretty much close to that branch. I'm familiar with their work in Kingdom Hearts. As a tradition when I was younger, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas was a movie shown, and I believe they're in the second story in that one with Donald Duck and his nephews. And that's about all I really have. Oh, and I think I've given them a couple hugs here and there in the Disneyland game.
There we go.
And real life at Disneyland.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I hugged them too at Disneyland. That might have been something I did because they were cute and fluffy. I don't know.
All right, and I guess huge fan. And last, I definitely saw a bit of the show when I was a kid growing up. So I used to watch Disney Channel and every now and then, and they usually do reruns. I don't think I probably can't pick out an episode at the moment, but I know I was at least familiar enough with them that I was like, oh yeah, I know Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I also would sometimes get them confused with another show called, I think it's called, not a show, but another movie series called The Rescuers, or it had mice in it. I might be butchering that as well, but
no, The Rescuers.
Yeah, The Rescuers. I would always get those confused because it's kind of not similar enough, but it's a similar sort of small creatures. But yeah. So when this movie, I heard about it, I was like, I should probably check that out because it's it seems interesting. Got to say, I was probably maybe if I was a bigger fan of it, I'd like it more. But I think even still, it's not that great.
There are a lot of problems with this film. Which we will go in depth.
Yes, we shall. So I guess without further ado, we will just jump right in. Going to be doing a popcorn structure for this. I think I've already said that. Not. Here we go. And I'm gonna start it off. I'll start it off, and you guys can rip it apart at the seams from there. But I think one of the first issues I had with this is they do a I'll call it a homage, but I think really it's stealing. Basically the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit in order to do this. Which is one of my favorite movies. And they do it in such a way where it feels really cheap and lazy.
And disrespectful. I wasn't a fan of the original show, but like I got the disrespectful vibes.
So I was like, oh, I get it. They're trying to, draw you in using like something that I don't think everybody's seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I think enough people have seen it where, they're like, oh yeah, where cartoons are real with like real people and all that stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, but this just doesn't feel right. It feels off because I think they're doing too much with it, and it feels like, oh, this is just for sight gags because we can't really. There's not enough story here to sustain this idea.
The biggest thing I felt through this was it just felt like a cash grab. It didn't feel like somebody's like, I want to make a Chip and Dale movie where it's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's like they were in a boardroom like, all right, what properties we got? We got Chip and Dale. All right, let's just do some nostalgia bait movie where we just throw in a bunch of references. Let's do it.
I think
in regards to from Roger Rabbit, this was so much lazier in comparison. They did a 3D, 2D model instead of actually just drawing a 2D character. They took the lazy, cheaper route. And with Looney Tunes Back in Action as a comparison, they didn't even do shadows in this that well. So a lot of the 2D characters that were in the background and stuff, they stuck out really clearly because they were just flat colors. They did not have any shadows interacting with the environment, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes Back in Action. Just a lot lazier.
Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off that a little bit, I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the exception, mostly. But they turned their own show into a joke by making it not real. To me is very whenever that's done, that's usually whiplash for me, and so you don't care then about what you did. That's usually what it means to me. And it was the movie was off-putting to me from the beginning because of that. I do not like this movie.
Subtle, very subtle, succinct. It's on paper. I think if you just had it on paper, it seems like an interesting idea to have, to do what if they were actual actors or whatever, and all that stuff, and that seems like, oh, that's it's a niche route. It's something I quote unquote haven't seen that before or something, but I think the inherent issue with that is with Who Framed Roger Rabbit wasn't real, or at least he wasn't real, and he was an actual cartoon from the 30s or 40s or whatever, and very few of those characters were. There's only a couple that were actual they had Mickey and Donald, or Mickey and Daffy. And a couple others, but it wasn't oh, there's Bugs Bunny and there's all that stuff. So with this, it's oh, well, let's just do a bunch of properties that we own and just filter them throughout the whole movie, and and also just it's I would have rather seen a Chip and Dale show story than behind the scenes, this is what they're actually like or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An actual adventure.
Yeah, like, it's not just like, I mean, because I think it's just it lends itself too much to like something that's better and that kind of fit in there. Because I'm like, I don't really when I like, granted, I'm not the hugest Chippendales fan, but Chippendale, oh boy, oof, set myself up for that one. They but I think I would rather see that than, oh, what if they were real in a real world where they were just actors and then they had to do, it just is like, that's not at all what I want to watch.
In regards to, I guess, the bootleg stuff, I did like that premise, but it kind of fell on its face when they just started doing random stuff with it. Because the whole point of the bootleg is it's supposed to be similar to the original property, but slightly different. But then they made what was his name? Monty Monterey?
Jack.
Monty Dumbo.
Yeah.
Marky Dumbo.
Well, why? That's not a bootleg. That's just a monstrosity. They didn't slightly change his character so they could get away with it legally.
No, didn't you
They
see
made some other nonsense.
They were evolving. They were making a different kind of bootleg.
But everything else we see Winnie the Pooh
Yeah.
where they just look worse, but they're still Winnie the Pooh, and the Simpsons where they look worse, but they're still the Simpsons.
And Flounder.
But we just get Monty with elephant ears, but he still looks like the same character. So the bootleg thing didn't make much sense in practice.
I mean,
what
also,
they showed.
I mean, well, and also like inherently, I think I mean, this could be like a decent argument or not argument, but decent kind of setup for an argument or something of, does a bootleg hurt the characters more or the studio more?
I don't. Does it really hurt much of anybody bootlegs?
Like in real life or like in the movie?
In real life, I was meaning in real life, but because in this movie they kind of set it up like because the cartoons are real, so obviously it's tune trafficking, but
In this world, it obviously very clearly affects the cartoons just because they have to go through CGI surgery or whatever. It's just,
the bootleg surgery.
yeah. So
I was bringing up that question just because this is a Disney original. And they are, I think infamously tough on copyrights. I was curious if that in itself was lending it more to, well, this is bad for the company more so than the character brand. But again, I'm not a copyright lawyer, so I don't really know if that's a adequate argument to make.
I guess it kind of boils down to, I don't think people will prefer bootlegs to originals if they have access to the originals. Bootlegs are just like if you have nothing else, you get that entertainment. So I don't know, in a realistic sense, how much of a problem bootlegs are. Pirating is, I think, more of an issue than bootleg stuff.
Well, again, that also felt. I don't know. Bootlegging also felt like a weird thing for this movie at this time because I don't really feel like I mean, granted, I don't go out of my way to find bootleg stuff, so this could be totally correct or that's still like a big thing, but I don't know if it's a huge enough market anymore. Just with, I mean, like you said, like with pirating now, I think that's like a better route that most people go through than bootlegging stuff.
Briggs, did you have a popcorn point?
Oh, I have plenty.
Well, go.
Well, I'll touch on your shadow thing a little bit that you brought up, Crimson.
Mhm.
I thought it was. I agree that a lot of the colors are very vibrant because they don't have the shadowing to them that they should to fit in to the world better because there's live action people. It's a little weird that the shadowing they do use is because it's not just non-existent, but they do have some
Yeah.
shadowing on like some ground pieces or against walls of lighting, so to show that they're actually in a 3D space and not necessarily
Yeah.
like stickered onto the camera lens.
Very sparse.
Yeah, but something I kind of noticed, especially in like the earlier scenes when Chip and Dale are in high school, they don't have reflections. No reflective surface really shows them back. And
I didn't
I saw
notice.
that as a bigger thing than the shadowing that they had.
I don't remember seeing any reflective stuff, so I'm gonna have to defer to you on that one.
I'm going up the I noticed it in the high school because when they're eating, you can see the reflection of the tile of all the shoes of everyone else eating around them.
Okay.
They didn't have any.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
fair.
In regards to shadow bit, they do cast shadows, but shadows do not touch them. Other
Yeah.
sources.
That's
That's
it.
my shadow issue.
Gotcha. I mean, when Monterey Jack came out of the container at the end, he's just darker. They just dimmed his colors.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
they
guess
really
it's
didn't
nighttime.
go
But
in. It's a big thing.
they definitely knew their material of Roger Rabbit because A, they have Roger Rabbit in the movie,
Mhm.
and B, they do the handcuff joke from
Yep.
the Roger Rabbit movie.
Mhm.
And they also bring up Jessica Rabbit.
They do.
They do.
It's if you watch this the first time and you're just kind of like you notice. I mean, you notice just like, oh, that's kind of like little references or something. It's really apparent on a second rewatch. Like,
There's a
oh
lot.
yeah,
This movie
there's
is
a lot.
entirely references, is what it is.
Yeah. It's like, hey, remember that thing you really liked? Well, here we're reminding you of it. This is similar, right? Right?
Yeah, a weird reference is Scat Cat from Opposite Attracts. That was a weird one.
That was a weird one.
There was a fucking Autobot in the crowd at the talent show.
Yeah,
Dude, they had a Pickle Rick.
they did. There's
I
a
missed
lot-
it the first
and
time.
There's so many references in this.
Being a Disney movie, like how much did they? I mean, yeah, it's Disney; they have
Yeah.
the funds, but to just pay for references of other studio properties.
Yeah, it is weird. It was weirder, I guess, the references that weren't their own that they did have to license to put in that weren't even like integral to like the story in any way.
No,
You know, yeah, like because most of the elements of this movie are like their own properties as far as like characters. That being said, it's weird that it's weird that there's so many others that have literally nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like probably my favorite, Ugly Sonic.
That was one of the problems I had. It's made for people of today. That will
Yeah.
age terribly.
I
No
literally
one's gonna
this
know who
movie-
Ugly Sonic is and why he's so significant in this.
Yeah, like we saw Ugly Sonic. Literally in my notes, to put, "Why is Bad Sonic here?" and the note right after this is, "This movie is just getting way too meta for my liking." And then they make a Jungle Book reference about the whole CGI resurgery immediately afterwards, and I'm like, just kill me, please.
The Cats movie.
I wanted to die after the first 20 minutes of this movie. It was too much.
Dude, that's like when I watched this, I got about I think 20 or 30 minutes in, like the first time I watched it, like a month or two ago, and I just stopped because I was just like, I can't, and I was like, you know what, I have to. And a month later, I was like, I have to finish it, so I finished it, and I was just like, that didn't feel good. I don't feel like I gained anything from finishing this.
We get into podcast
Get
content.
to talk to your friends
Yeah.
about it.
And we get
Yeah.
and we get to save the audience, because audience, please don't. You have better things to do with your
this
life.
is when I went over to hung out with Crimson before, like last week before we were going to be watching this anyways, but we were talking about it because he was on Disney Plus. We were just looking at a bunch of stuff, and he was like, I wonder if they have the rating for it on there. And I'm like, no, Disney doesn't do that. They're too smart to actually put like a rating on their stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of their stuff would be ratioed.
Yeah, because well, it's HBO Max doesn't. I think Netflix kind of does. It's not really.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
got them
personal
on the
thing.
fast.
So like you could tailor the algorithm to what you like, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I guess not really a lot of streaming does, but which I guess is fine. But it's because it's usually pretty obvious to tell what's probably going to be a not good movie and what's a AAA movie. But anyways,
They have the rating on Disney Plus.
Where is it?
It's like right under the title. It's PG.
No, like
no.
Yeah,
review
gotcha.
rating.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The longer you laugh, the worse the joke.
Yeah. Since you brought up licensing and stuff, I was curious how much this movie cost. Apparently, it was approximately $70 million, which isn't too bad.
It doesn't look
I'm
like a
surprised
$70
it actually
million
has
movie,
a box office, since I thought this was a streaming-only movie.
They
didn't even
probably
make $1 million on the box office.
Because they do with anything. I think we've talked about this before, but with anything original, like a Netflix original or a Disney original, that's a streaming thing, they have to have a theatrical release to be in consideration for awards. So they just do like a limited, like a week or 2 weeks or something, like whatever. They have like there's like the Academy agreed upon like some window of time that something has to be out for before you can say it was a theatrical release.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's a kind of a waste to use it for Chip and Dale, but I mean maybe effects this would get some awards for, but I don't even know about that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, it's unique, if a bit headache-inducing.
I can see why, after watching this, because I think Ryder brought it up that it gave him a headache to watch it, which I will agree that it was a little bit of an eyesore. But I can see why they, like in Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes Back in Action, they only did one style, because if you do too much, it kind of starts to clash and it starts to look weird.
Yeah, like with all the 2D characters, I'm like, okay, this is fine, this is workable. And then they started to just like South Park kind of animation, and I'm like, uh-oh. And then they have like the uncanny valley, as they say, Polar Express eyes animation. And then that's when, it just got worse.
That was going to be one of my compliments. Was I liked Uncanny Valley. I liked that place. That was one of the actual funny parts of the movie. It was
because you're an artist, so you know all about Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, and I like the Seth Rogen character as much as.
Did you like Seth Rogen?
Oh, I don't like Seth Rogen, period. But
it's not a subpar movie unless Seth Rogen's involved somewhere along there.
Yeah.
This is true.
No offense, but I liked his character. It
was good.
His character.
It was just like Bob.
I think so.
The Blob.
No, I think
he was in here too.
Bear called him Bob.
Huh.
Wasn't it all worth it though to have Seth Rogen be in here, because he got to be Pumbaa, the Mantis, and Bob the Blob?
Yeah, I mean,
all in one scene.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny. I smirked at least at that, which is more than I could say for the rest of the film.
I think the only two things
will be whittling down from here.
Yeah, I know.
On my end.
I think the only two things I laughed at, or that I, even if it was just like, was that the Seth Rogen bit, or Seth Rogen's bit with all the other Disney characters that he's played as. Kung Fu Panda's not Disney.
That's DreamWorks.
Oh, but isn't that a property of now?
Nope.
Oh, that's Pixar. I always forget. And the whole Uncanny Valley Eyes segment, that was good. And I think Ugly Sonic, just because of how sarcastic, I don't know how to explain what that was in a comedic way. It was.
I think they laid too thick.
They did.
But the teeth. And I go in slow mo. Let's zoom in on my mouth. It was way too much, I think.
And then they bring it back later.
Yeah.
He's FBI. Ugly Sonic, uglier crimes.
I'm trying to think if there's double checking my notes if there was any joke that actually was humorous.
I smirked at a couple things.
I guess there's two.
Yeah, sorry, you go first, Springs.
No, the first one was the battering rams actually being rams.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of funny. And the second one was the whole bootleg studio. Pete is just Pete. He's not changed at all.
Yeah. No one wants to bootleg Pete, so that makes sense.
So, that's pretty funny. That Pete is just working for bootleg movies.
I mean, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's a very Pete thing.
Yeah,
I was worried Pete was going to be the bad guy in this.
That would be too obvious.
Turn.
I was gonna say, it was obvious because the bad guy was not even an original, legacy Disney character.
Bad guys in Peter Pan or Captain Putty?
To Captain Putty,
Okay.
But I was gonna say, but then I remembered. Oh yeah, Peter Pan is like a bad guy.
Yeah, Crimson. Did you think Sweet Pete was gonna be Pete?
I was, and this was going to be a really low rated subjective if it was Pete. So, I don't like Pete. For the audience members, I don't like him at all.
Oh, but you love Goof Troop.
Sure.
I don't mean any offense to John Mulaney or Andy Samberg, but I'm sure
you're gonna offend them a little bit, aren't you?
better. This movie to me would have been better if Chip and Dale were in their actual high pitched voices, because that's a familiarity of Chip and Dale.
Okay? That just reminded me of something, because I want to come back to that when I finish, because that's also a decent point. So because they have a flashback to when they're kids, and Dale is voiced by like a kid or what, or I don't know if they pitched up any, whatever, but he's a kid voice. Chip is just John Mulaney through the whole thing.
Yes.
I think so. I remember John Mulaney narrating over it, but I don't remember actually using the voice if it is him.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
It was so short, I don't remember.
I'll have to. Okay, I gotta. Unfortunately, now that I was hoping I'd have a little bit of backup here, but since I don't, I gotta retract that point.
It was just what made it more off was that Gadget and Monty sounded like themselves. They didn't have different voices.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was. It was different. It was. I don't think it was the same voice actors. Was it?
Well, he's saying like
no.
high pitch versus the not high pitch.
Yeah. Well, that was just the voice they put on because that's what the audience wanted was high pitched chipmunk voice.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like Monty's voice in the show sounded exactly like just Monty in their life.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
I did not like Dale's voice. I don't know who voices him, but it did not match.
Samberg.
Okay, it did not meld here. I did not vibe with it.
I like Andy Samberg's work because I liked Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I like I forgot the other one, but it's
Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs.
Palm Springs is good.
Yeah, so I like Andy Samberg, but yeah, I didn't think his voice fit at all as well.
Yeah. was okay, but I do agree that if they did their classic high pitch, it would work better.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I think I like Andy Samberg more than I like John Mulaney, and it fit. It fit enough. I mean, it was still like odd because I was like, I think I wanted the high pitched voices, but I can also see why. I don't know, an hour and a half of that. If everything else in the movie was the same, I think I would not be able to take that. I don't know.
You got the Alvin and Chipmunk movies.
Yeah, because those are great,
You
aren't
know
they?
it can work.
Yeah, they did like 4 of them.
Yeah, there was 4 of them.
That sounds so exciting.
I only saw the first 2 because I didn't hear about the third and fourth one because
I've seen the first 3.
I know. No, I've seen the first one. I might have seen like half of the second one. And I stopped.
Is the second one where is it Chipettes?
The Chipettes, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's quite
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, I've seen the first
And
two.
then
Then.
Chipwrecked.
Road Trip 3 or 4?
That's 4. A road trip.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I thought there was 3, but I wanted to be I wanted to make it sound like I didn't know what I was talking about, so I said 4, and there was actually 4.
Oh, there's 4.
Freaked out.
Unless you count the cartoon ones.
No,
Like
the
Halloween.
actual no. Okay. Those are actually good, but so yeah. I mean because I think Andy Samberg fits better than John Mulaney. In my mind, and I think that's a personal opinion, but I was just like I don't. It just doesn't. It would have been better if they. Yeah, I will say I'll walk back a little bit. I think it would have been better if they just did like the high pitched chipmunk thing the whole time. But the problem is, then you can't say like, oh, such and such did the voice because it doesn't sound like them anymore. So it's a double-edged sword, because I think they kind of do need star power for this because I don't think a lot of people thought about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers in a very long time.
Some would argue people still don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they got. I think it's because of DuckTales. They revamped DuckTales, so then they were like, "Hey, you got any more shows like that? Oh yeah, we got Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers." They're like, "Oh, well, let's do a movie. Let's get like really out there."
Yeah, because DuckTale revamp is still a show.
Yeah, and I like it. That's a good remake. But yeah, this is just not.
So the lady cop, I don't remember her name.
Ellie.
Ellie, yeah.
Am I the only one who thought she was a bad actor? She seemed like worse than a Disney Channel actor to me.
I wouldn't go that low.
No.
I don't know where she's from, but I recognize her from somewhere.
She had the Polar Express dead eyes on every delivery.
Well, she's also like acting to nothing being there.
That means nothing. We have so many actors that do that now.
I'm just saying, yeah, but
stuff. I'm not going to use that.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think she was very good in this.
Yeah. But she certainly made the writing job easier.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins had a lot of cartoons he had to talk to in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he did it way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who had to talk to Thanos did a pretty good job.
Well, I think Josh Brolin was there in a suit, but
yeah, but they were looking up at a cutout on top or a ball. Regardless, still, I think it wasn't great.
I think though, at the end of the day, like, okay, we're only gonna have one human actor, like, be a human, like, on set. And we've already spent a bunch of money for voice actor people and people who are like live action celebrities who are being voice actor people. I don't think we have the budget to spring. And also, I really don't think this movie would have been improved if she was a really, really great actress.
I would say it would marginally be better.
Marginally.
For how much screen time she had, I think it would be a little better.
I also, is her character even necessary? She at the end she gets her own detective agency, and I don't even know why because she didn't really do anything.
Yeah, she solved the case.
I think she was used as a red herring to make them think she was a bad guy.
Because otherwise it would be super obvious. Yeah. Because otherwise we would have just been like, oh, obviously it's Captain Putty. Because they even say that in the show. They're like, it was always the chief in the show. That's for.
Vibes, I guess.
Is there a little popcorn? Is there a difference between licensing names versus actual physical appearances?
Names, I don't know if you need licensing for.
No, you do,
because they
do a name drop.
They talked about Nickelodeon characters, but I don't think there was ever a Nickelodeon character shown.
I think it's. I'm not a big aficionado of this, but I think it's like a tiered cost. So like if you have the name and the likeness, that's a certain amount. But if you just have like a name, it's a much lower. I'm pretty sure you have to pay. I mean, I could be wrong. You might not have to pay anything for just the name, but like you can't just like say, "Oh, Mickey Mouse" and like some like
I'm just thinking there's so many television shows that just name drop reference characters. Like, man, that guy's fine like Superman. There's no way all the shows that ever say Superman have to pay to say his name.
At the very least, it has to be cleared. So like, if I had a show, I couldn't say, "Oh, I found Mickey Mouse at like a gay bathhouse or something," like because that would be. That could be in turn by Disney as like, oh, I'm tarnishing like their branding or whatever. So they'd have to clear that before the episode or whatever could come out. At the very least, you might not have to pay for it, but you'd have to clear it.
Yeah, I guess that could be more believable.
But I think for a likeness, you have to pay for it because you're
definitely
using
actual assets.
Because that's you're basically using their brand to sell your thing, so you have to. But as far as name dropping, I think you just has to be cleared by internally or something. I don't know. Probably should have read up on this stuff because it's really important to the plot of this movie. If you can't believe that or not,
it's funny.
Ryder, did you have a popcorn point?
Sure. Let's take us to the Muppet Cheese Shop.
I like the Muppet.
I like the Muppet.
I forgot about that. I did like that.
I cannot. It has one. It's the reason I bring it up is it has one line which I smirked at, and one of the few times where the movie got me to smirk. I didn't laugh. I don't think I think the only time I laughed out loud was again the Ram joke. But he's like, the name is Monterey Jack, which is also the name of a cheese. And it was just dead straight delivered, and there was a moment of awkward silence. I smirked at that. That to me was amusing.
If only the rest of the movie had that kind of comedic timing.
Yeah, and since it is this movie, there's also some shitty writing in this scene. Yeah, I can't believe that the stinky cheese is the code word.
Ugh.
And it was, you just...
Well, to jump onto that even further, the secret entrance is the size of a chipmunk.
Yeah.
So what if we get somebody that isn't a chipmunk saying stinky cheese?
But who, other than a chipmunk or a mouse, would want stinky cheese? All the people inside who are bigger than a mouse?
Precisely.
Wallace.
Yes.
Cracking cheese, Gromit.
Yeah. They weren't in this.
Might want some stinky cheese.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a character who really likes cheese, but yeah.
But I liked the atmosphere in the room that they did with the lighting and stuff. He seemed a little menacing. Interesting. Good.
The dead stare that the Muppet gives. Yeah.
Yes, that sounds good. Unfortunately, once they get captured, I I don't know why they were sent in to talk to Peter instead of just getting transformed, since that was Peter's objective.
Because he wanted to lay out his plan like all the bad guys do.
Yeah, he never did that to any other character.
Yeah,
I
once again put the Ultron quote in here. I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan.
It's a big deal.
It was so egregious here.
Yeah, my notes are kind of funny because I actually literally wrote down Ryan Johnson must have a writing credit somewhere in here because we're speed running ruining childhoods with the moment I saw the Peter Pan.
I will say, I like the idea behind the Peter Pan. The execution, not great. But I like the idea. It also didn't make sense. And I'll talk about that later on. But did anybody else like Will Arnett voicing Peter Pan? Anybody? Any hands?
Like noticed it?
Well, no, like, noticed it, liked it, enjoyed it, wanted to see more of it. Maybe in a spinoff.
Suffered it.
It was Batman himself.
Lego Batman.
Oh yeah,
that's Batman.
Or E.T. Forgive Bat. I did smirk at that too, in a
That
weird
was
way.
weird.
Yeah, exactly. I smirked because it was really weird. I'm like, that's just weird. Like I said, I never ever pictured those two characters together ever. So I was a little bit amused by it as a result.
Let's see.
No, go ahead.
E.T.'s Paramount, right? Or Universal? Universal. And Batman is also Universal, right?
Batman's Warner
Brothers.
Wow, geez, they're just paying fucking everybody.
Also, the voice of the cheese chef was Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah. It was kind of, when he did the accent, I couldn't even tell. But then as soon as he went to like you guys cops, I was like, oh yeah, that's Keegan-Michael Key.
When you brought up the E.T. Batman bit, totally forgot they did have another Nickelodeon thing here actually. Squidward was on the star on the ground.
That's true. He did have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny.
You probably didn't have to pay for that one.
And Dobby from Harry Potter works for Gucci.
Oh, I missed that.
Wow, isn't that hilarious? Because he didn't have any clothes in the Harry Potter movies.
Well, he's free elf now. You can do that.
It's just lazy writing. It's just
reference.
It's not even okay. Like that in itself is not that bad. Like that's just it's a generic writing tool, but it's a writing tool. The problem is they just go for the most obvious joke. That's the other problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
To open up to all of you. Being that Lumiere and Baloo are at a fan expo.
Yes.
And they go to quote unquote Main Street. Does Disneyland exist in this world?
Probably. Their movies had to get made by someone, and I would imagine it would be Disney.
I don't know. It's weird. It's yeah, because they don't talk about it at all, but I don't know. It's an interesting question.
It was just brought to my when they went to Main Street, which in my mind is Main Street USA and Disneyland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all these licensed characters around. It's not just solely Disney characters, which made me think Disneyland isn't a thing.
It might be like a different version of Disneyland, like in this world, because it's all the characters, like not just Disneyland properties. There might be.
It might be like what Chinatown kind of is. That's probably a bad reference point, but like Disneyland, like this is where all like the Disney characters, or quote unquote live, or yeah.
It probably isn't like an Nickelodeon Avenue where you
it would also make a little more sense to me, being a Disney licensed movie. I mean, Disney movie to begin with, they would kind of want to be equal grounds and not make themselves look prestigious of having their own like area compared to all the other cartoons in the world.
Yeah.
Aw, Disney's trying to be humble. That's cute.
Adorable.
They own everything. Yeah.
Is it a cliche of
Pushy,
a
yeah.
cute or innocent looking character listening to like heavy metal?
Yeah.
Because when Chip got home, he was just like blasting heavy metal in his AirPods.
Cliche.
Yeah, I think that would be a cliche, because that's
common
I think
across.
at this
Yeah,
point,
at this point, yeah. It's common enough that it is tropey enough, I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
and
It's
then
like,
we had
oh wow,
the girl in Main Street who uh, bets on fights. I forgot what the
Oh,
specific
puppet
thing was.
fighting.
Puppet fighting.
puppet.
Yeah, a little innocent girl, but hard act.
Hard act.
Which we're going
I-
to see that in the credits. Muppet fights.
Muppet fights.
Instead, we got Ant Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Aunt.
the little Paul Rudd cameo actually was kind of amusing.
No, I agree. I was amused by it, but I'm like, I mean, at least you got paid, buddy. That's pretty much what I thought of it.
Is that just like a reference, really, to when he was at Comic-Con and he said, like, and he answered the question of why didn't Ant-Man just fly up Thanos' butt or whatever?
No,
I
that
feel like
was
they just brought that up.
they brought that up in a different form of video. I can't remember if it was for Quantum Mania or if it's for like a Disney cruise line, but it's talked around there.
It was
Okay.
the cruise.
It was a cruise line they talked about it. Okay.
Okay.
Where they had to fight Ultron with Miss Marvel and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, completely different thing. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. When we
Yeah,
when we
sure
go
about
into Disney cruise productions, we'll cover that. We've really scraped the bottom barrel.
Something to me that seemed off, I guess, is Dale called Chip to arrive at the crime scene of Monty's apartment, and when Chip arrived, Dale was really like surprised by it.
I
Seemed
mean,
off.
I think that was okay.
Well, Monty is the one that called
because
him, right?
Yeah, Monty called him.
no, once Monty
Oh, yeah.
disappeared.
Afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, then Dale called Chip to say the police were investigating all that. I think Dale, as dumb as he is, could still feel that Chip doesn't want to be near him. So I think from Dale's point of view, it would be surprising he showed up. As a normal person, I agree. That reaction wouldn't make much sense otherwise.
Weird. Don't know. I don't know how I feel about their relationship.
Of Chip and Dale.
Yeah. Because I mean in like the way of like, it doesn't feel that organic, and I know that's kind of a dumb critique to have a little bit.
No, it just means it doesn't feel natural. That's fine.
Yeah, or an easy critique to have. It doesn't feel like an easy out. But
I
I'm like,
understand what you mean.
yeah,
Because to me, Chip's side of things seems fine. How Chip feels about the relationship and everything turned out. Dale's doesn't. So it's uneven. It's not matched, but they're also not matched in the way where they both feel off.
It also, I mean, like, it feels off because they don't really justify why they have such different perspectives on their relationship. So, like, the differences I would be fine with, but the problem is they don't justify it. Like the excuse he gives, like at the end of the movie, where that like he saved him or whatever because he was also like looking for a friend and feeling alone, and then that leading to like him being really really bitter and angry instantly when he was going to do his own thing. There wasn't enough like transition there to justify the fallout, because the fallout just sort of happens, like, because they talk amicably even though he's going to go do the 00 Dale or whatever, but they don't do anything with the drama that they try to create in the rift between them.
Yeah, real close friends. Something that small immediately broke the friendship apart. No talk over.
well,
anything.
and it's weird. Like, it's a weird thing where like I can kind of like it almost makes sense.
Almost.
Like
I agree. Like,
it
it almost
almost
makes sense.
it almost makes sense, but then the second you start looking into it, you're like, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like it's so close, but it's not quite there where it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna start up my own show to make sure that this person says they appreciate me, and then I'll cancel it. But instead, oh no, they didn't say it, so I'm gonna go through with my show even though I know it's not good. Or, it's like that just doesn't quite fit right. If you like look at it under a logical microscope, it's just like
yeah, like it doesn't work because the opposite could have happened. Like if they really were friends, what if his friend was encouraging? Like, oh dude, that's cool, awesome. I hope it works out for you, dude. Like what if they were encouraging? The exact opposite happened once again. It's just it's not good.
Just because I'm misremembering, did Double O Dale have an aired pilot or an unaired pilot?
Unaired pilot.
It was unaired?
It had a pilot and never went to air, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was weird that there was a stuffed Double O Dale toy.
It was a bootleg.
No, I mean, there's prototypes for merchandise that are always made, so I don't have much issue with him having.
What are the odds that they find that toy?
Yeah, the one
he's the guy who was supposed to star in it. That doesn't surprise me. When you have to, because he was supposedly super involved with the production. Yeah, they would show him, and he probably just asked to keep it. It doesn't.
No, I'm talking when they had the fake out that he was drowning in a puddle or whatever.
Oh.
From the sewer.
Oh, I have no idea.
That was the Double O Dale stuffed toy.
I have no idea how that got there.
Sweet Pete takes his business is taking in products that were unbought.
Yeah.
And being that the show was unaired, they'd probably only have one prototype of that toy. Then, cases made.
Plus, it was from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, no way.
no way
that stuffed toy is there.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that one. I agree with that one.
That's that one. I gotta give it to you. Got that one. Is that Shrek body wash real?
Yeah, I'm surprised they put that in there.
I was like, wait, yeah, I think that was a thing, but I can't remember.
Another DreamWorks thing they licensed.
Yeah, there's a lot. Again,
they probably did like a bulk deal, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
here's all the characters are doing.
DreamWorks also didn't just accept it. They're like, okay, here's what you can't use.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, they use Shrek, and that's like their biggest one. So what did they keep on the back burner?
Well, the stuff they have more respect for.
Yeah. Like,
what?
How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy none of that was in here.
Hiccup could have been in the background. We don't know.
I'm happy he wasn't.
And I'm happy it wasn't. Yeah. It's. I'm trying to. There's a bunch of. There's a lot in this movie that's just kind of like. You gotta walk through like the swamp in your brain to get through.
That's what the experience of this movie is. You're just walking through the swamp to get through the end of the movie.
When the police ram into the operation. Why is Chippendale even allowed to be there?
Why are they even allowed inside?
Because they're 90s celebrities.
Oh well, never mind. Critique's over.
Yeah, you don't know this. All 90 celebrities are allowed on crime scenes. It's actually illegal.
It's allowed. Didn't know
that.
It's because their cop friend Ellie is a fan of the show.
That was so weird.
And also, I think Captain Putty said, like, I should write you out for going behind my back on this, but then he accepts it. Because she was off. That was the problem I had. She was off duty as a cop working on the case because she's a fan of Chippendale.
I don't have an issue with detectives taking their work home.
Putty was my favorite character, by the way. Throwing it out there.
Yeah, because I mean, I
J.K. Simmons.
I actually figured that he would be for various other reasons, Crimson. But you know,
He was cool.
Yeah.
He was,
And self-aware.
and self-aware.
yeah,
I like self-aware characters,
That's fair.
especially self-aware villains.
especially.
Yeah. Yeah. When Detective Putty was first introduced, I was kind of I was really annoyed with Ellie's character in that first scene when she's introduced, because she just spouts tons of information to two civilians essentially.
But she's a fan.
But she's a fan, and I'm like, I said,
She's a fan.
I wrote in my notes, well, you're making the writing job really easily because they you know they
It's
didn't
a
have to
weird-
work for the Chippendale to get the information at all. She just tells them.
I think the red herring stuff is another big problem.
I
'Cause
think
they-
it's very, yeah, I think it's really weak that the whole Albany thing. It's like, oh, I live in Albany. We never aired there, and then they see it as like, I'm like, where's the payoff in this? And they're like, oh, well, she never watched the show, and grandmas don't do technology and all that. I'm like, that was the whole Albany thing.
I don't know. How do they like?
I
how
guess
do
it went
they,
over my head. I didn't take it as a red herring. It was so obvious that she was not a bad guy that I didn't even entertain the thought that she was a red herring.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
also I'm kind of I get that they were trying to do red herring, but I obviously hated it because I, like you, Crimson, knew that she was a good guy. Like I didn't have any doubt, but I did catch the red herring.
Something that I think helped strengthen it is when they like could smell the cologne, and it was coming from Putty's office, and you see how the two of them. It makes sense that it is Putty because when they first got introduced to Captain Putty, they were in Monty's apartment, so it already smelled like that.
Mhm.
But when Ellie was at the backyard of, I think, Dale's house, she didn't smell that way, or they didn't catch the
Yeah,
scent. kind of thing.
it's weird.
It's also weird how the smell comes and goes when the story needs it.
Oh, well, that's just so
Are
critical of
you
you.
saying that the show is inconsistent?
Yes, this
Are
movie is
you-
inconsistent.
Are you saying that you think this movie's not good?
Also, Chip should not be allowed to have a dog.
That's
'Cause the size of that house is animal abuse. That's all I'm saying.
That's something I want to
agree.
touch on a little when he brings up he wants to get back to his dog, or she's a dog,
Yeah.
and Dale says, "Oh, I don't think she's that bad." That could go a lot of ways in this cartoon world.
Oh yeah, I saw that as the adult joke way.
Like a dog is in like
She's
a
ugly.
person, dog is in like an actual cartoon dog, a real dog, a goofy version dog. It's like a lot of ways.
I think I read in the correct way of that she's a dog and that she's ugly.
Yeah, I
that's-
saw it as his and Dale's as he had a girlfriend who was a dog, and a female dog has a name.
No,
That's how I
don't-
read it as an adult joke.
You dirty birdie.
I think that was
No,
the
see,
intention.
No,
that is
it's
one way
not.
You could do it. I
You
think
could.
there's-
I'm not gonna say you couldn't. I'm just saying
There
I
were
think that-
definitely adult jokes in this. I think that was one of them.
that you have to go a long way logically though to get there. That's that would not
Your
work.
girlfriend's a dog? I don't think that's.
Why would you
too
call
far
your
of a stretch.
girlfriend that though? Sorry, not like why would you call her a dog in the first place if she wasn't a dog? But why would you like go around? Well, okay, for a kid show, I know why you go a roundabout way of saying that way. I don't think that fits.
It seemed very clear cut to me.
I think Dale's
you
stupidity
got a
could
dirty
intend it
man.
that way.
I
If it was
agree
the
to
other way
disagree.
around, Chip, I don't think would say something like that. But
Agree to disagree.
I'll
Let's see.
cut to a part when
Yeah.
they're heading to Main Street.
Uh-huh.
There's a sign when they're crossing railroad tracks that says "wrong side." So they're actually going to the wrong side of the tracks.
That's
Okay.
And you thought that was freaking hysterical, didn't
It
you?
was a little humorous that they had a thing to add in.
It was a little humorous. I
A
mean,
little humorous, and then they immediately cut to Main Street, and it was a really bad cut. It was very abrupt.
yes, it was.
Yeah, it
Yes, it
was.
was. But you know
It
what was
really made me
good?
think, like, how far were they from Main Street? Where was it?
Well, that location is an issue in this as well. When his car was Dale's car, wait, it was Dale, right? Yeah, Dale's car didn't
Who's
start
Dale?
up. I'm a huge fan of Chip and Dale, you know. Dale, his car didn't work, so he went to the girl, I forgot her name as well, her mechanic shop. Like, how far away
Gadget.
did you have to walk to get there, Gadget? How long would that have taken? So I don't think they got much of a time frame in this movie. My car's broken. All right, I teleport at the garage, and now she's going to fly me over to Chip.
They don't have much of a time. They don't have much of a location.
Yeah, she's just a neighbor. She's right next door.
It's just, again, I think that's just kind of like a. It's you know, I think we've used this word a little bit too much, but it's kind of lazy. It's, you know, it's just like, it's all just coincidental, or it's just like close enough where it's just all for ease of making this just kind of like go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
This plot is riddled with conveniences.
Oh yeah. This is well, it's Convenience and Dale Rescue Rangers.
I didn't get that title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, yeah. Leave that long gap in there, please. Yeah. So
I think the movie at a part was knowledgeable about the references and meme culture it was kind of going around, that when Seth Rogen laughed, it continued on longer than needed to be.
Definitely
The joke of his laugh.
Oh, yeah.
It was Crimson and Sinister, in case anyone was curious.
Well, no, Seth Rogen's in the chat right now.
Oh, well.
I like weed.
I don't mean to offend any Seth Rogen fans.
I mean, he's like, I think he's self-aware enough where he knows. He knows. Yeah, he knows. Like,
he's the pot guy. Everyone knows that. He knows that.
It's fine.
I find
not making fun of him as a person.
I find it annoying the villains are stupid. Whatever.
Yes, they are stupid indeed.
They are dummy heads.
Yeah, like they know the police is after them. They know the police are onto them, or at least Ellie is. They know they're gonna get caught. And still they decide to stick around to get Chip and Dale for a bootleg instead of just skipping town.
Well, because they can skip town.
Not just sticking around. They went back to the place the cops went, where the machine was.
Exactly. It's even worse.
But it was also. But they also have the chief of police on their payroll. Like,
that changes everything.
All I can really think of is the captain of the police is a bad guy. But something that's weird to me is when they ask Ellie, "Did you like find anything?" She goes, "No, we checked the whole place. There was nothing." They never saw the bootleg production a part of the building.
The bootleg production rest of the fucking warehouse district.
Yeah. They checked one room and we couldn't find anything.
Clear.
It's the TARDIS, man. It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
That I know it's like a cartoon movie, kind of, but that machine is stupid. Why is it a bunch of lasers like that? Why would it ever need to be made that way?
Because they wanted their Mission Impossible thing, where they're dodging lasers.
And I'm glad the restraints were chipmunk-sized as well. Very lucky.
That was something I wanted. That was weird to me. When they're in the machine, the restraints are there's the chipmunk small-sized ones, and then there's like the bigger-sized ones. But when they're in the machine, a claw comes out to grab them. What was that claw intended to grab in the first place?
Pull fingers. Yep. That's exactly what I thought.
That's right.
Yeah, that whole machine doesn't really make sense.
Are you saying this movie doesn't make sense?
Maybe. Poor Jimmy
Maybe.
Neutron is all I'll say.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Neutron's here.
He was here. He's gone now.
Yeah. Also, it's shown at least multiple times Chip and Dale change outfits and clothes. Has Peter Pan been in the same clothes since he was a kid?
Yep.
Okay,
He lives in
so
the past.
actually,
Was it the
I have
movie?
a bit of
As
complaint.
like a teen and an adult.
I have a bit of a complaint about this. The clothes are not consistent across the animation mediums. This is very clear in the fucking like when they have to rap to kind of distract
Oh,
the guy.
God.
Yeah. Well, when you see
I don't
Pete,
eat whale.
when you see animated Pete changing, he just puts on a normal robe, and it looks so fucking weird.
Yeah. They did that a couple times where they had real people and they just animated human body parts like the heads and hands. It's very weird looking because they did it at the end with one of the cops as well, the FBI.
Mm-hmm. I know they did it with the Bakers too on Main Street. Like he had like a normal body, but like a 2D animated head, and I'm like, that's just it's not pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do that instead of just drawing an entire body. Weird.
Because budget, maybe. I don't.
It would probably take longer to track the body than it would be just to draw a body.
They showed like on freaking this was years ago. It was like when in Avengers Endgame, I think, or the one where Cap had a beard.
Infinity War.
Infinity War. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was like, I know it's not Endgame, but I can't remember the name of the other one. Anyways, and they like showed like because they had like they put it out for like VFX award or whatever, and so they showed that like they'd like CGI'd, his beard. He had a regular beard though, but they like added like CGI touches to it or touch it up or something.
Okay.
And I don't. I know that like with that technology you can do kind of like anything with it, but I think and I think sometimes that's even like those little stuff that's like helpful. I'm not just gonna say like, oh, it's bad like 100%, but when I see that stuff, I'm like, this just feels unnecessary. Like this feels like, why don't we just have him grow a beard or get like a fake, or like have like the makeup people make a beard or something. This seems like a waste of the talents of these people.
Yeah,
to just have them
CGI
touch up a beard.
like CGI adding a mustache from Henry Cavill.
For
Hey, we can't have a Superman with a mustache. That's not allowed.
We also can't have a Superman. So
that's true. No Henry Cavill Superman.
All right.
He wasn't fired. He just wasn't hired.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
I love James Gunn, but I'm just like, oh come on, dude, really? Don't.
I'm like I hope it's good. I do. I just don't think it will be.
He's making a lot of enemies really early. He's not selling himself well. Anyways, back to Chip and Dale.
A nice little thing I'll talk about.
Okay, give him a good
when
positive.
When they go to the crime lab, there is a nice little instrumental piece of the Rescue Rangers theme in the background. There's a couple little instrumental pieces that I think are very fitting and nice at parts. Another one is when Peter Pan's chasing them at the convention. A little bit of I Think You Can Fly, the song from Peter Pan. That's a little bit played in that part.
Sure.
Okay.
You'd catch it more than me.
I'm gonna piggyback off that real quick. This was something that I said I was going to talk about later on. So
it's later on now?
Yes. Well, it's the setup. So when Sweet Pete, is chasing them throughout Comic-Con,
some convention,
something con,
fan con, some con. It's not Comic-Con, but it's like a fan
Vince
con.
Van Von Comic-Con.
Oh boy.
Oof. All right, I'll give it to you. There's a moment where they think they're chasing after one of the chipmunks or whatever, and then it turns out to be one of the Lost Boys who hasn't aged.
Yeah.
So why does Peter Pan age, but at least one of the other Lost Boys doesn't age?
Because Teddy lives in Neverland.
Yeah, I was
Peter
gonna
Pan
say,
doesn't.
Neverland people don't age, right?
But
Censor, I
Neverland
can't really
isn't.
tell you. They don't show
Neverland
Neverland.
isn't real. It's a cartoon.
Yeah, it's true
Actually,
in this world. Yeah,
that is true. In this world, he's an actor.
yeah.
Yes.
Remember,
Yep,
nothing
yep.
is true anymore. Because writers are smart.
That's a good point.
Yeah, Teddy would be older.
Oh, Peter, you got old. Death approaches us all, kid.
I legitimately thought, was it actually him? Because I legitimately thought it was just actually like it was supposed to be someone cosplaying as the character, if that makes sense, like a cartoon
No, I think
cosplay.
That looked like him.
I mean, I could see why that that could be one thing, but he acted like he knew him, like
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair.
Oh man, like oh man, you got old. He's like, Peter, is that you? You got old. Like, yep, death comes for us all, kid. Ah, good stuff.
Sprinks, you posed a question to me before the podcast starts. Do you recall what that was?
Oh shoot! Absolutely not. Why don't you reiterate it?
Oh, okay. Who's this made for?
Oh, I was gonna save that till the end.
Oh, well,
Oh,
I brought it up. I
No,
spoiled
that's
it.
fine. We'll bring it up now. Who is this movie made for? Yeah. What was
Disney
the
adult?
target audience towards?
Disney adults.
All right, so you're saying Disney adults, okay?
I'm sorry. First thing popped in my mind.
My answer. Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Crimson. I'll go after you.
Why don't you both go at the same time?
Yeah. No, it's hard because they're going after the nostalgia factor of a lot of older properties, but there's a lot of it's hard to say Gen Zer jokes in here that just
Yeah, I mean,
anybody older than like 15 won't find funny.
yeah, it's like Ugly Sonic is like more prevalent than if this was just like a retro cash grab than he should be.
Yeah. So I don't think they knew what they were doing at all in regards to their target audience. Right?
I agree. They have no idea what they're doing at all for their target audience.
But
I will boil this down to syndrome. When everyone's super, no one will be. When you're placating to everyone, you're placating to no one.
That's essentially my answer of what I was going to say is that they were trying to go with a general audience of all ages, where they'd put in an adult reference, a teen reference, and a kid thing to try to encapsulate all audiences towards the movie, and it just does not mix and makes it stand out at parts.
Which is weird because like I mean my obvious choice like for one that actually succeeds in being a movie truly for everyone would be Shrek, because adults laughed at the adult jokes and kids laughed at the slapstick jokes.
At the toilet humor.
Yeah, it had like that was a movie truly made for everyone, which is why Shrek is still infamous today. Despite all the memes, it's still a good movie. It's just this movie doesn't succeed in that at all.
For me, like the rap bit, the first, I guess, the setup for it when he's like, all cartoons try to be modern and just start rapping now. Like, you know what? That's kind of amusing. It's true. I hate rap as well, even when cartoons aren't doing it. And then they do a long bit later with it, with the snake. Way too long, and wasn't even funny for half a second. So it was just a painful slog to sit through that.
Yeah, I had to pause when I started rapping to actually get myself alcohol. Good job, movie.
Well, that's not much of a feat.
My name is Dale. I don't eat whale. How would you say that I eat whale?
It was bad. And then I went into them like saying the exact same things and repeating it. I guess it was a slight bonding moment, if anything, but
that's what they were trying to do. I don't think they succeeded.
No. I'll touch on something that I think was dumb is they had to disguise as rats to get into like the plumbing to scout everything out with Ellie watching from a van, and Dale drops his nose piece and it falls, and Chip goes, "Oh, shoot," and Ellie's upset. So then what Chip decides to do is remove his. Why? That's the only means Ellie can see what they're doing. Why would he take that off? And being Chip, if he's already taken off the disguise, why not remove the rat tail as well? He kept that part on.
Yeah, I got another one. Crimson's gone.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back.
You'd want the show to go on.
Okay. Sorry, I missed him dropping out. So, the other thing that got me in that scene was they fucking just left their bags on the floor when they, escaped the uncanny dwarf.
Oh yeah.
That to me was really dumb too.
It is pretty dumb, but I don't know if it was just a prop and if it would actually hold anything inside it, because they do leave it there and they're not like, "Oh, I left the bag with the thing we needed to like lock pick or something."
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you leave it in such an obvious place? Regardless, I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's because it just makes it clear that someone was there.
That's true. It was I mean, they leave it there because then they use both hands and everything to climb up through the pipes, and I guess they can't do it while carrying a bag, but it's still leaving evidence that they were present.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ellie's okay with it. I mean, she never brings up like, "Where's the bags?" or "You guys left the noses." That's very irresponsible. They could track the camera, something along those lines. She's just like, "Oh yeah, whatever. We got the intel we needed."
She's just working for her dream heroes. That's what you.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ellie. You should aim higher.
I think something smart Ellie did when they were checking out the warehouse is she put her hand over the coffee to feel how warm it was. Like that was a good little indication of
how recent it was emptied. Yeah. That was some intelligence on her part. I do appreciate that.
I think it may have been a little funnier gag if Putty did it and his hand started melting, but
yeah, you gotta. I think another thing this movie kind of doesn't do quite well, and I will admit it is kind of a hard thing. I think in this medium is you have to like the comedic timing, and especially with animation, you have to be a lot more. It has to have a certain rhythm, and I don't think this one ever really kind of gets in the groove of that where it feels like it works.
I agree. I don't think it's rhythmic. I can't speak.
Rhythmic.
Thank you. At all, it's very jumpy of tones.
And I would agree. I think when the question was asked, and I did the jokey answer of Disney adults. But I think that I agree with everybody here that said it was just kind of it's really neither fish nor fowl, because it goes too far into one area and not enough into another, but it also doesn't quite go far enough in that direction either to make it. It's just it doesn't really. I don't think it knows what it wants to. It's a lot of references, which if you have like comedy behind it, it's okay, but there's really not that much comedy behind it. There's some there's too many different age tiered like jokes for it to feel like it's a certain kind of movie, because there's the Gen Z stuff, there's the millennial stuff, and then there's like the kids from the 90s or whatever stuff who would get it. And all in all, it doesn't know if it wants to be a comedy, if it wants to be like a friendship. I don't know what it wants to be. I mean, I know what it wants to be. It wants to be like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of thing, but it's not enough there for it to it's not executed well.
Yeah.
It's a long roundabout way to just say it wasn't executed right. There you go.
Yeah.
Also, when they're up in the pipes, there is a South Park character. I don't know his name.
I
I think it's the teacher.
Mr.
No,
Garrison?
that's the dad.
That's the
Oh,
dad.
Oh, Randy.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
just another. I mean,
Andy
it's
Marsh.
cartoon, yes, but it's also just. Is that supposed to be just tailored for the adults who watch
Yeah.
South Park? I mean,
there's kids who watch South Park, fortunately.
well,
but
yeah. No, anyone can watch. Anyone can watch anything. Yeah, but still, I mean, just the
yeah,
chosen characters they have at parts plays into the who it's tailored for kind of thing,
I'd agree.
which is weird.
Also in the pipes, there's the forced nostalgia stuff, I guess, or reference where was it Scrooge up there with the money?
Yeah.
Diving. Why? Why is that there? They're up in the
Why is
pipes.
Scrooge there?
Why is he just jumping in money there?
Why is there a money pot to be dived into? This is
Right
supposed to be
there,
the
I
real
don't-
world.
It's just thrown in. Yeah, and is there cartoon money and real currency? How does that work? That's a different problem, though.
That's a separate problem altogether.
Two types of currencies?
Are you telling me there's Scrooge currency, regular currency, and a third kind of currency?
But you're saying something, Springs.
I was gonna bring up when Chip and Dale are in the reanimation bootleg thing and starts processing different animation styles. I wrote down a couple I caught. There was a clear Rick and Morty one.
Mm-hmm.
There was Simpsons. There was a weird one I couldn't quite get what it was. I think it's Batman and Deadpool, which was weird to me, being a Marvel and DC. And I don't know if that just fits under like superhero, maybe like animation style, but it
Maybe.
just stood out because they don't pair. And then immediately after that one is Ren and Stimpy, which earlier I said they didn't have any Nickelodeon characters. That's, I think, the closest they have to showing likeness to one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of us caught anyways?
There's too many.
That's all I got in the throat. Since we're on the machine again, I'll bring up at the end fight where Peter gets just blasted with that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's powered because it blew up. So that was interesting. It blew up, and then it just started shooting what's the polar bear from?
Oh,
I thought it was just the Coca-Cola polar bear.
Yeah,
okay, that's what I thought. But I didn't know. It seemed random if it was that. Okay. It turned him into a fairy immediately. We didn't get the whole laser machine like before. Just boom, transform, and now it's like a machine gun thing, and just blasts Peter after it's been blown up.
It also, being blown up, it didn't like randomly start sparking around or anything. As soon as the polar bear was done, it like auto focused onto Peter.
Yeah,
like it was like it knew what it was doing.
He was the next closest Toon character.
Well, I guess so.
I don't know. Yeah,
the crossfire kind of thing that goes and just shooting wildly.
Yeah,
it's a weird.
So the main thing guy, Pete has a Optimus Prime's leg. He got Emperor's New Groove Cat CGI head.
Wreck-It Ralph's arm.
Wreck-It Ralph's arm.
Woody's leg.
Woody leg.
Oh, it's a Woody leg. That was the other one. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what the gun hand is from.
It looks like a Transformers gun, but because the Transformer reference is already there,
it's a cannon. It's a cannon.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Shooting
Mario
cannonballs with faces on. Yeah.
Yeah. At least it reminded me of the Mario bullets.
Thing.
And that's weird. They would make a reference to something like that because that's not even.
This
I'm
movie's just weird.
Probably something from something else. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
But there's a reference they throw in at the end of Crimson. I think you brought up the Jimmy Neutron hair, and there's like all these different cut pieces. One that clearly stands out to me, being a fanboy of it, is a Kingdom Keyblade and Sora's hair from Kingdom Hearts.
I was curious if they were gonna put any Kingdom Hearts stuff in there because that's a Sony co-production.
What was that wall of
Spare
stuff?
pieces?
Yeah.
Spare parts.
It's not
I don't
like
know.
it's not like those are used to make stuff because he got a whole cat head. Did they decapitate the cat? I don't know what that is.
Well, it never
The
showed
wall of
bootlegs
parts.
coming out
Okay.
after being formed
See,
and then an
that's the-
additional piece being put onto them.
See, that's the weird thing. It's supposed to make bootlegs, but those are all really specific references. Like they're not bootlegs; they're like actual. I mean, closest thing maybe is the Transformers like could be like just like a whatever.
Mhm.
But like, and maybe the canon one. We're not really sure on that one. But anyways, all the rest of the stuff is like clear references. So, but that's not bootleg then. That's just a reference. Because a bootleg, it has to be dissimilar.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's I mean I thought the trophy wall. I assume he was a psychopath. He just liked to keep trophies from his victims.
Yeah.
One, and two, I also thought it was just like they're removing the like most iconographic thing that belongs to the character, like Jimmy Neutron's hair. Therefore, that way the Jimmy Neutron, like without his hair, could go out and then do a bootleg because he looks nothing like his iconic character.
Yeah, I guess it's weird that the mustache is the iconic thing about Monterey Jack. I don't. That's getting, but because that does make sense that it would be like, because you couldn't have because obviously with Jimmy Neutron, his hair, you couldn't really have a character in a bootleg have something like that because that would instantly be Jimmy Neutron.
So it makes sense to a degree, but I know it's not like
no,
I can't apply it to all of them probably.
Also, how does it get those parts? Does he have Chip's ear because that got lasered off, or
no?
It just magically grows back. Remember?
That was weird.
Crimson,
they just regen body parts.
Yeah, no, Crimson. They didn't show it because it would be really, really gross if they showed what actually happened.
I don't know. Just everything regarding this machine makes zero sense to me. Even though I like the concept of what it is. Yeah, it really is.
What about can we? There's one kind of good, and I'll mention a good thing. That I liked Captain Putty fighting Ellie.
That was, I mean,
I liked it up until he lost.
Well, yeah, because it was just reference.
Yeah, I liked it up until he had the upper hand, and a part of his arm was choking her out, and then as soon as she grabbed the fire extinguisher, the hand just vanished.
Yep.
That's terrible. I like when he slid under the door. They had a Terminator.
Yeah. I did. I heard the Terminator sound effect. I actually was amused by that. Because I recognized
There was a little reference I do like during the search at the fan con. There's a Shepherd's Journal from Atlantis.
I missed it.
It was right before the Paul Rudd cameo.
We also had the Indiana Jones theme play for 5 seconds. That was nice.
Yeah.
Good thing they had a chipmunk hat there.
Their size, yes.
I'm just obsessed with that. Everything has to be the perfect size for the chipmunk. Everything's catered for them in this movie.
Well, hey, it's not Tom and Jerry. It's Chip and Dale.
They brought up that there's chipmunk cars. So how do those play on the road?
Hey, you can just go in their car.
They're so small.
It's probably like Zootopia. Different sizes have separate sections.
Okay. And cars, Lightning McQueen cars. I wonder what their rules of the street are. Interesting.
There was some about the Indiana Jones outfitters or whatever. There was some really weird cosplayers in that crowd taking photos of them.
Yeah.
Also,
was-
nobody knows them, so it's interesting they got a crowd. Sorry.
That's true. Yeah. There's George Jetson from the Jetsons. There's Ash Ketchum. I think there's Pee Wee Herman from Pee Wee's Playhouse, and then I think there's Borat.
Borat. That's
There's a Borat cosplayer. It was very. It was just a weird collection of characters.
References.
That's what this movie is.
references.
So this movie is just references.
No one ever goes to
Reference.
cons just dressed as normal people. Every single person dresses up, right?
References the movie.
I mean, I do.
Essentially.
I prefer dressing up, but that's me. So
I mean, I think everybody.
I mean, if
No
you're
way.
gonna go, might as well. But I'm just saying, everyone in here was dressed up. I think.
There was a couple that weren't.
I didn't pay too
They were
much
just
attention
kind of like
to
just
that.
like wearing like or we're just like wearing like a comic T-shirt or something. You know, I mean, like it's like fairly normal, just nerds or whatever. Do we want to talk about the Sweet Pete fight anymore?
Or at the end.
Yeah, with the birds. Wasn't that funny?
Well, why
kind
the
of.
use of the birds? They're like, oh, let's use the birds to distract him when he was so far back before he even used the transformer leg to wheel himself forward.
yeah.
They could have gotten to the button that whole time.
Yep, it was very weird, that scene.
Plus travel time. Now that
I have no idea how.
unless the birds were living in their heads,
I've.
which I don't think was the case.
Yeah, I have.
No, because it showed him flying in.
Yeah, it shows.
it
It
also
also
had
shows
them-
them that their house as well, like their bird
Yeah,
house.
Yeah.
and that when they get when somebody hits their head, they call them.
Yeah.
That's
So,
really weird.
Travel
It's
time, light speed.
It's- Here's the thing. It's an okay joke. It's an okay joke.
It's an okay
joke. The problem is there's so many weird things about it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you know,
Can we talk about?
sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, so what I do usually, I have the movie up in the background at parts so I can look at scenes and everything. Now I'm looking through the fan convention right now. There was someone in a Geralt of Rivia cosplay.
Oh, neat.
There you go. Boosted your
Weird.
subjective by like 4 points. Awesome.
No, that doesn't boost my
Okay.
subjective at all. I am not gonna rewatch this movie solely because someone cameoed as Geralt of fucking Rivia.
but that is a good. I mean, props to them.
Cool.
Right before you take us somewhere else, this little bird bit. The stupid thing that he's got a cat head, so he likes birds. He's still Peter Pan. These are
Crimson-
cosmetic changes.
Crimson,
He's
you
not
don't
a cat
understand.
now.
You don't understand. He is.
No, he's still
He-
Peter Pan. Peter Pan doesn't care about birds. He cares about whatever killing, I guess, the chipmunks.
Killing. I mean,
No, he cares. Well,
referencing.
he
I mean,
wanted to. I think he wanted to make a bootleg out of them, but at this point, I think he just wants to kill him
Yeah, at this point he's shooting
Yeah.
them. So.
Yeah.
with
The
a.
machine altered his brain.
Apparently,
apparently.
You're gonna say something, writer.
yes. I gotta fucking. I don't remember now. I have my notes though, so that's what they're here for.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, the fact that everyone is using their fucking Fitbits to track each other. What?
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid.
It have worked.
Yeah, shape of butts.
I mean,
Wasn't that funny?
I mean, okay. Let me preface this with people do stupid shit all the time. I mean, to kind of date this video to the Ukrainian war a little bit, people are using Snapchat to fucking walk artillery barrages onto Russians and vice versa. So I'm not, it's happened. People could turn their shit off, but the problem is these people have actually met with each other and they're trying to find each other and they know that. And they publicly broadcast their fucking their Fitbit tracking stuff, which bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Is that how Peter found them at the convention?
Yes.
No,
for
I
them?
thought it was
No,
the
Oh, he
the-
followed on
Yeah.
some
So
Yeah, he
social
followed. He
media.
followed. He
so he
followed
followed him.
on his like
So
the tracker app, like for the Fitbit thing. That's how he followed him, and that's how he knows he's there.
didn't he
No, no, no,
follow
no, no.
his socials?
How Peter followed Chip or followed Dale was by following him online on social media to know when he'd be at the fan expo of like vlogging himself.
Yeah.
How they tracked Peter to his place was using his Fitbit in the locker.
dumb.
Dumb on both accounts, I think.
Yes.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
just dumb overall. Yeah.
By
Is
the way,
it-
with the
Sorry, no, go ahead, Crimson.
the locker bit with the snake. What's the snake from? The wrapping.
Don't know if
Uh,
it's caught from Jungle Book.
I thought
It's
it
don't
was.
think
the
it is.
closest.
I-
I mean,
I thought it was the snake from that Rango with Johnny Depp.
No. He wasn't
No,
a
I
rattlesnake.
don't think it.
it's
Yeah, I don't know.
it's unclear. Yeah, it's unclear.
Sorry,
I think it's
Uh,
just a
continue,
snake.
Sphinx.
No, I think it's another cliche they threw in of the smart character
Another
gets
one.
captured and the dumb one has to go save him,
Yeah, I mean that's
or the more competent one.
cliche.
Yeah, that's it.
A trope.
I'll label it as a trope. Yeah, like I said, it's not. In theory, it can work. You just need to make me care about the characters. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or just
inherently-
feel about how he
It's like,
figured
oh
it
no,
out.
what am I gonna do? What am I
I
gonna
mean,
do?
inherently, none of these
Oh, I
things
hated
are
it.
like.
How
I
he
mean,
figured
like,
that cracking the code, that was terrible.
Unbelievably stupid. So dumb. First off, he thought of it as a clue, which I don't think Dale would think that. And then the way he just pieced it together in his brain was also just stupid.
Piecing together in his brain, stupid. I think him understanding the episode and watching the episode to try to get an answer made a bit sense.
Yeah, like-
because so far he's been just saying episode
Mhm.
titles and numbers.
Fine with him
Was-
watching it, but he watched it because he thought she was giving him a message. I don't think he would have known she was giving him a message. I think through Dale's eyes, she was just answering his question.
Could be, I guess.
it's a dumb way. It's just, you know.
Because even Chip points it out. What did Chip say about what Dale's dumb about? Doesn't remember what he has for breakfast
He's
or
like-
something.
Well, he's like, oh, you figured it out. And he goes, oh, I thought of Thai food or something.
No, not that.
no,
After the
no.
phone call, Chip told cop lady,
Cop lady.
Ellie.
cop lady Ellie, something, but I don't remember. It was regarding how dumb Dale was and how he wouldn't figure out the hint.
I don't recall.
I do not recall.
What I do recall, though, is when Peter goes to grab the eraser in his whole deck of like torture equipment, there's a vial of dip from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Nice.
That's so funny, so awesome.
Also, erasers very strong. Does that imply that they're pencil drawn people?
Well, that's a question I had. If someone just punched the eraser like downward in Peter's hand, would it like cut his hand off?
It's weird though because they erased his. Technically, they erased or they showed it like erasing someone's mouth, right? Too.
Yep.
But it didn't erase
Found in his
like
mouth.
yeah, but it didn't erase like beneath that.
That's true. It should just be a hole
Yeah.
since they're 2D. I guess. I don't know. Some are 2D, some are 3D 2D, like Chip. Is Chip 2D or is he 3D?
Chip is 2D. Technically,
Yeah.
because he's drawn or flat
do
drawn.
the real people in that world see him as a 3D object or a 2D object? That's what I'm.
Well, in order to
2D style, because when they're on camera of like showing the show and then it cuts back to the production, that's supposed to be the 2D.
Okay.
see, I would argue. I would argue he's a 2D, 2D element, but if you ever saw him, you would see whatever that angle was from the front. Like if it was the front facing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's a 2D. But I think like just by the nature of if if we're if a 2-dimensional thing is in a 3-dimensional space, I don't think you would ever be able to see the
Other side.
other side. Yeah.
Like
So you
Timmy
would
Turner or
yes.
Phineas.
Cosmo's
Well,
actually
like a video game sprite where it spins
Yeah.
to your perception. Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cosmos has a very actually Neil deGrasse Tyson's second season of Cosmos has a very has an episode pretty much dedicated to the idea of trying to see into the period into like what the fourth dimension is, and how the second dimension would perceive us being 3D. And it's just fascinating stuff. So
Isn't it like the Flatbush or whatever? That story something.
Well, there
I'm
was
not familiar with the Flatbush.
there was an example of like a piece of paper would be the 2D reality, and if you get a 3D sphere and interact with the paper, make it go through the paper, any people living in the 2D plane would just see a line, because you're just seeing that section of the sphere. But in a 3D world, you see the entire sphere, not just the section that's in the 2D space. Interesting thought experiments for sure. I like how we got something deep out of Chip and Dale.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
Out of animation.
Yes.
Animation.
Which is a cool medium, just for the record.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's see, that's the thing. I think that's something that they could explore and would be really interesting if they kind of went into. No, who am I kidding? It's not. That's interesting only if you're like really, really into it. I don't think that would make a good movie, but
I have something to touch on. I think, well, when Ellie finds Peter and the polar bear, and like they have Chip captured, she pulls a gun and points it at them. That makes me think bullets would work on cartoons in this world. Like a gun is still like a functioning weapon against cartoons of any kind, any animation, even Muppets or puppets for that matter. But then when Captain Putty comes up behind her, she puts her hands up and lifts her gun. And I'm curious, would Captain Putty's small gun really do any damage to her?
There are real guns in real life that size, but they barely break the skin. So it
would depend on the range.
I'm gonna go with no.
So for her to drop her gun because Captain Putty aims this little, thing up at her.
Don't say that.
Rephrase, please. Please rephrase.
As he points his weapon towards her, his little pistol. Whether it be a 1911 or some other model. How much rephrasing do I have to do?
That's right. And in a real world setting, probably would barely break the skin if it could even do that. Cartoon world, no idea. Something that was a little interesting.
No way.
When the bootleg machine breaks,
it
brings in all the magnetic stuff, which I didn't understand, and then it blows up.
That's just because you're not a creative person.
Well, it did it to disarm Putty, but as you say, kind of gets it back, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the whole point of the magnet bit was.
Because he was a magnet, right?
No.
You think you think the magnet of the machine is tied to the whole business magnet?
What else is there in
Better
this?
not.
Because the bootleg is a business and it was a magnet.
Yes.
That's crazy connection I never made. That is so stupid.
I think that's us reaching. I don't think that was their intention. It's amusing that could line up.
It better be. Because otherwise it's just stupid. It's not even.
Well, and the bit with the top hat was stupid as well. But
what are you talking about?
Kind of goes into more classic cartoon type stuff. I guess.
That was comedic genius. What are you talking about? If you put on the top hat, you're a man of about town.
And if you put a fake rat nose on, you can disguise yourself as anything.
You're a plumber.
Yeah.
Isn't that a little? That's, I don't know how I feel about that. Because basically what they're saying is that rats are only good for plumbing.
I don't know, is it a reference? Are there plumber rats in anything?
I think it's
Could be
just
like
because
flushed away, maybe.
yeah.
stuff,
Plumbers, but
No, it has something to do with sewage.
How do you feel about references where you have to really think about what that means?
too much effort.
Yeah.
And for this
Especially for
movie,
this.
absolutely too much effort.
Now, I don't find this hard to believe, but something that's weird is when they're using the Rescue Rangers chopper to
Yeah.
get Gadget and Zipper and Dale to Chip. Zipper's not in it. He's flying at the same speed. So I guess he's just that fast to fly?
Oh, he's a fly, yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. He should be left in the dust. Yeah.
It just shows how fast he is.
Well, they're also in LA, right? So you're not allowed to fly in LA without permission.
Unless you're a Rescue Ranger.
This is a world where cartoons are real. I'm not gonna attribute too many real.
Oh, you're not
rules.
gonna come on, man.
Come on.
I have a question because it went over my head, and maybe one of you could help me. The whole agent joke of Dale's agent calling him and telling him like things. Who is this? Who is this guy? Is he an actual like agent? Is it a reference for someone
probably
older than me
somebody?
yet? I didn't know who.
He's
this guy
probably one of the
was.
writers or something, or one, or like Andy Samberg or John Mulaney's actual like agent or.
Answer your question. Went over my head.
I like seeing He-Man and Skeletor in this movie. There you go. It's another...
You don't even wear pants.
Oh, it was something.
What's something?
I could talk about how I could talk about how shit the dialogue is.
Oh, how could you forget?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't forget. I just I don't even know where to begin of how shit the dialogue is. But I'm gonna pick on the first and second banana line. Especially when the character's supposed to be
bananas.
Especially when the character's supposed to be quote unquote dying. Not good. The tone in his class just was amongst all other things just bad.
Ryder, you don't understand. It's a callback to the beginning, so there's emotional pay.
Therefore, it's good. Yeah, sure.
Therefore, it's good. So also brought up in the death scene is how I just sell insurance. I'm alone. I'm like, what little we saw of you doing insurance, you didn't seem like you disliked it. I didn't get any Mr. Incredible vibes.
Yeah,
he did not enjoy his job as an insurance guy.
He was making money. Fine. He was doing a job. Yeah, I don't know.
He didn't seem like he was having a miserable life.
He's that good of an actor.
Yeah, he's lying to himself. So yeah, that part at the end didn't add up because they did not represent him not liking his life before Dale was reintroduced.
Oh, I just looked up the official release poster. It looks like one? Yeah, it looks like bad clip art, like bad Photoshop.
Well, we all know Disney's artists are all trapped in basements, so I don't know. They probably got some slave down there to work on it.
Probably. I'm sure they were really, really busy with this one because there's a lot.
I'll jump all the way to the credits.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, before the post-credit scene, where we get to see all the people in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Putty, that was his name, right? I'm not forgetting already.
Captain Putty. Yeah.
I don't know why he's in an open cell. That's
exactly. He could go through the bars and bye prison.
Maybe be in like a Mr. Freeze containment area,
or like a Clayface
closed room. So he can escape. We get the Coca-Cola polar bear, still a tiny little fairy who can fly through the bars. And bye polar bear. The only one that's locked tight is Peter. So
He's
I
got
guess
the
he-
Hannibal
he's in
Lecter
there.
mask. Yeah.
I don't know. Peter wasn't good in this.
Who
Because
wa-
I
who
agree,
was
they
good
could have
in
done
this, Crimson?
something.
Yeah. Who was good?
Putty.
Who was good
Yeah,
in this,
J.K.
Crimson?
Simmons. Yeah, J.K.
Putty.
Simmons.
Oh, I think
I don't know.
Brady
Putty was
disagrees
pretty
with
good
you.
at.
I do. I don't. Well, I don't like any character in this movie though. I mean, like I like J.K. Simmons. That's the only reason I like Putty. But I don't like Putty for being Putty.
I like
Oh,
Lumiere.
of course you do.
What's that supposed to mean?
What does it mean? What's that mean? Tell me. Because I know you.
Because I know you. You're like a Frenchman.
Je suis.
I'm
I'm a good writer.
Yeah,
What did-
yes.
Oh, geez, bash on
Well-
Spring's Day. Oh no.
Did I bash on you?
You just said, of course you do. Because
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Writer, what about Putty is like to a point where you can't list him as at least a likable character for you?
Like subjectively.
Yeah, because I'm not saying he's objectively an amazing character. I'm saying a character I like.
Oh no. I mean,
Subjectively.
subjectively, I'm fine with him.
Oh, okay.
I'm using him. He has probably my favorite single. He probably has my favorite expression in the movie, which is where he's got the fucking anvil in his hand and the fucking like knife in his back, and he's got the murderous intent look on his face. That was probably the most amused I was at an expression.
That's where all the animation talent went for that
Pretty
one
much.
scene.
Pretty much. You know what? He did a better job acting than Ellie did in that scene.
Oh, easily.
She
It annoyed me
she was acted
because I
under
know
the
it's
floor.
because I know it's a kids movie, and she wouldn't actually die by his hand. But it would have been so easy for him to kill her.
Oh,
during this
yeah.
whole fight
yeah.
scene.
That's kind of like what they were
It's
setting
annoying.
up the whole time, and then they just sort of like were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we remember we can't let that happen." So
Yeah,
Sorry,
so here's a fire
we
extinguisher,
gotta-
freeze him.
Yeah, the Bob Iger said we can't make this movie rated R, so we can't have you actually kill her.
but Bob Iger was not yet in. Or
Yeah, he's always been there in the back.
Yeah, but
what was the other Bob Chapek?
yes. Yeah. This was actually what got him fired. No.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
No, that's not
No.
true. Not true. But yeah. So yeah, it was not Bob. I mean, it was basically Bob Iger, but it was Bob Chapek at the time.
Hey, Bob. Both Bobs. Doesn't matter.
Bob
Wasn't a good movie.
Bob the Dwarf, Bob the Blob, and Bob Chapek.
I'm
Is it
running out of
anything else?
memory
Anybody's
stuff
like,
here.
no,
If I-
that's
I took
kind of
notes.
there was a reference to Jurassic Park.
Oh
which
yeah,
wasn't
no.
needed.
I wrote that down. I'm like, hey, Crimson will like this 1 second.
I hated that 1 second.
loathed
it was
that 1
so
second.
forced and thrown in. That was like
Oh, of course,
Scrooge in the
like
pipes.
everything else. It was.
Terrible. We already kind of talked about it, but I didn't get my thoughts on it. The design for Peter's like monster form, I hate. It just doesn't look good at all from a design
That's the
standpoint.
point. It doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't even look menacing or anything.
Too many animation styles all over one.
Yeah.
No, because you can still work with
You
that.
can do that.
It
It
just
just
Well,
doesn't
wasn't
look
actually,
good.
a good
wasn't
example.
intimidating.
A good example of where we can get that to work is actually from fucking Treasure Planet.
Mhm.
There we go.
There you go. Because there's 3D and 2D.
Yeah,
in
so like
that one.
they're mixing
That's
animation
true.
styles for him, and so like it definitely they work really hard to try and blend them. They didn't work at all to blend these.
No, they cranked this out.
Yeah,
Um,
and the whole chase
and,
scene.
I'm not saying like, listen, even doing a half-assed job of animation takes a lot of work. So I can't, yeah.
Not blaming the animators.
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much. Sure, it's the time constraints and the overall budget of this film.
If knowing what we know now about Disney's CGI and animation department, I know this was not made under the best circumstances, so I'm not gonna They were just told do this, and they did it. So I'm not, they
You got
didn't
2
come up.
weeks. Get it done.
Yeah, not gonna. As much as I think we've complained about the mixture of animation styles, I'm not gonna blame them because I'm sure they did the best they could under circumstances. But I can blame the people in charge.
I'm gonna blame the writers.
You can blame the writers. It's yeah, I don't
Because like this in concept could work. Like everything here in concept works on paper. It just they didn't do it. Their script was terrible.
The script wasn't good. I don't think I think if they had tried to do something more along the lines of the actual source material, it would have been fine. It probably wouldn't. I mean, I'm not gonna say it would have been great. It would have probably, at worst, it would have just been like average, or
It probably would fare better if they tried to do that.
I think, and I don't want to bash this so much because if you just don't if you don't experiment at all, then nothing new gets made and all that, But I just don't think this property works to the idea that they were trying to do very well, which was, this kind of, oh, what if, I know I mentioned it earlier, like, oh, what if, cartoons are real, very much rabbit, but it's a weird one because it doesn't really fit in with Rescue Rangers at all. Like, you could do this whole movie without, Chip and Dale, just have anybody in it and it would still work. So, them being Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers doesn't really matter. It's, and that's, I think, a problem. It doesn't really... It's not integral enough where you could not have them in it and it be, a different movie or something, So, I think it's nice to try out stuff. It's nice to experiment and, see what happens. But you also have to own up to it at the end of the day if it's not really good, and this is not really good. So I'm not gonna bash, so much trying something new, but I am gonna bash it if it's kind of lazy and you don't go the full way with it, which they kind of did.
I got a general question. How do you guys feel about the Pogs stuff? There's a lot of focus on it.
Raise your hands if you knew what a Pog was definitively before seeing this.
My hand is raised.
My hand's up.
Okay, is it like a flip thing? Is it something where you flip it, or it's just
it's
a
version of trading cards? You stack what you want to bid of your Pogs, and then you get a Pog. What is it? Slapper? A bigger Pog is what you use for the slapper ones, and then you slap it down, and the ones that, if I remember this correctly, the ones that are face up after being slapped, you keep, and the ones face down, the others take. Something like that.
Yeah.
And they wanted to use that to sell this movie.
Well, being the 90s,
that's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's an 80s and 90s thing. I'm just
popularity sparked in 91 for the show. So,
does anybody here own any Pogs?
No, not at all.
Maybe.
They remind me of those they remind me of those tape decks or something. Not tape, the
skateboard things.
Yeah, that's what they remind me of. Because I remember when I was a kid, everybody had those, and I think within 2 or 3 years, I never saw them ever again.
Yeah, they all get fads like that. The little skateboard thing, the silly bands, fidget spinners. Yeah. All these little gadgets get a couple of years, and then no one cares or remembers them. And did everybody watch the credits, by the way?
I did.
I saw
Yeah, I saw that.
That was not the post credits scene. Okay, because I don't remember fully. They were rebooting the Rescue Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Did he still have those Dumbo ears?
You know what? I can in the reboot.
So
I don't.
I feel like
so.
he did, but
I don't think so because there's a shot of him during the credits where he had them surgically removed, and he's
Yeah,
like
he
at a
has
party.
bandages
Yeah.
over him.
Okay. All right.
Something I'll touch on that I don't think we touched really is I don't think there's any way Dale could have gotten that pog to protect himself from the cannonball.
Nope, he's dead.
When they both set it down, Dale got off the table first, and if he did take it, Chip would have seen because Chip was behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that, and there's also just the force of the cannonball would have just pushed the chip into his chest.
I will label it as plausible because Mythbusters tested this with badges and other things to block bullets. It is plausible. So
Well,
yeah, you're right. You're right. It would
a
dig
cannonball is different than a bullet.
It'll go.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah, you're right. Cannonballs 1 go slower. But it would also push it into his skin. He'd survive it, but he'd still be injured.
Yeah, knocked him out.
Well, there's also the force behind it. He's a little chipmunk.
That's true.
I don't think his rib cage could take the force of a cannon.
Yeah,
even if it's blocked.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend my time defending that.
You're not gonna? Come on, somebody's gotta.
Crimson, I did catch something in the credits, which is really wild. You brought up the Scrooge McDuck part earlier on, and why it was even there. He did make noise, correct?
Yeah, he like celebrated or something.
That is credited to David Tennant.
Huh.
Because David Tennant, I think, does the voice of Scrooge in the reboot.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So that
they probably could have described a soundbite from the show.
They could have, yeah.
Yeah. I doubt they called him like, "Hey, can you do one voice for this movie?" Probably just like
with a phone.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I can do. Terrible.
That is pretty bad.
That is pretty bad.
I guess something I also liked was the little jab at the Fast and Furious franchise.
Oh yeah, they had the likes of Vin Diesel in the credits.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
What was that thing? It was Avatar, the way of water. Where I was looking up because we were trying to because most of the cast is CGI. They're not, people. So to figure out who they are, you have to look it up. And we saw, and the cast was Vin Diesel, and we were trying to figure out who he was in the movie because it didn't list it. It was one of the, it didn't list his name. And come to find out that he had said or somebody had just made up this rumor that he was in the movie, and so Google just auto put him into the movie even though he wasn't in the movie.
That's kind of funny.
Yes. So Vin Diesel's in a bunch of stuff that he's not actually in, I guess.
Weird. I think I'm out of popcorn points.
I believe that's everything in my notes.
I will check over mine one last time.
Oh, there's a Butthead from Beavis and Butthead in there.
Beavis, we must help Chip and Dale rescue the Rangers.
He was like running for senator.
Beavis, we must run for Senate.
We already mentioned where that machine turned into a magnet. It doesn't make any fucking sense, right? Okay.
It's a business magnet.
It's a business magnet, yeah. Please, writers, say that was what it was. It'll be awful, but it'll be awful, but it'll be. But worse is better. I had one more thing.
Okay.
I think we've kind of touched on it just a little bit throughout here, but how did everybody feel about the fact that there was like chipmunk-sized condos?
I think that's fine. There's tons of other cartoons characters that size.
Yeah, I had a problem with chipmunk-sized houses.
Yes.
Where it's a lot of wasted real estate. But like apartment complexes, yeah, that makes sense. Good use of space. But he had so much yard for such a tiny house. Humans would complain about wasted real estate.
And they're bigger than a chipmunk, so they could just deck him.
humans are more important because they're larger. Don't you know that? But yeah, in a real world setting, I don't think he'd be allowed to have that house there.
Mhm.
The landowners would
The land.
totally kick him out and put a real house there.
Well, that was my last point.
Yeah, most of my points are just more specific conveniences.
Yeah, it's just
so-
like
Yeah, like
that
you
we've
know,
already
most of my
kinda
points
touched on.
are just specific conveniences, like the them finding the stinky cheese, and then that somehow leads them to someone responsible, just out of nowhere. Very convenient. So
Mm.
stuff like
Well,
that.
it had the business on the label of the cheese, like where it was bought from.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is what. But why would they be suspicious of the cheese to begin with?
Got a point.
Well, because when Chip
That
went,
it's
he
associated with the
stated
gang.
he stated that he had a cheese addiction problem,
Okay, so that's
and
specifically associated with the gang.
that's the reason why he's in debt, because his cheese intake problem.
He's addicted to cheese, is why he's in debt.
Yeah,
That's dumb, but okay. All
They're
right.
they're playing it
that's where
off
he's
like
spending his money.
cheese was
Yeah.
drugs in this movie.
Yeah, okay. I'll just accept that.
Because
I
you
agree.
can't
It's
have actual-
convenient,
Yeah.
but they at least try to explain something out of it.
Yeah, just stuff like that. So yeah, I got nothing either. That's it for me.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I guess we'll just wrap this up with our final thoughts and our ratings then.
Sweet.
I think we'll go in order here, starting with writer.
Cool. Let's do my subjective first. This movie was painful to watch. Yeah, it's gonna be blunt. I did not enjoy watching this movie. I had a headache from the first. I had a headache forming at the 20-minute mark, pretty much. And this is a 2-hour movie, so didn't enjoy.
It's not a 2-hour movie.
It's basically a 2-hour movie.
It's an hour and a half movie.
It's basically a 2-hour movie.
What was the?
Felt like 2 hours though.
It's closer to 2 hours than an
Hour
hour.
39, I think, is what it was at.
Really? I thought where did I get the hour 49 from? That was weird. Okay.
It just felt like that.
I don't doubt it. It was, anyway. I didn't enjoy this movie. It made me smirk a couple times, but they were just references that were meaningless. They had nothing to do with the story whatsoever. So I'm never coming back to watch this again. It's pretty easy for me. So subjectively, this is gonna be a 1.5. Objectively, plot's riddled with convenience, as we kind of mentioned. World building is horrible. As just by the nature of the world, like they don't try to keep any consistency with anything. So I'm just left to wonder how things work and how things function at the most base level. We don't even know what currency they use. We don't know anything of how this world works. It's supposed to be like our world, but if it's our world, we can't. If we apply our rules, it just breaks things even more. And that leaves characters. I don't like any of the characters personally. I don't think the character work eats itself to like the degree that other movies do. Like I don't feel like the characters were assassinated. I just found them to be boring. I don't feel like, they broke out of character. So like in one instance they were this way and then the next they were suddenly completely different. They weren't making decisions incongruent with what they had made previously that would curtail them to be out of character. At the core of this movie is supposed to be Chip and Dale's friendship, or the rekindling of their friendship, I guess. It has some very, very scant moments where I almost felt something. but they were few and far between because I think if they had landed this relationship, like their relationship, their friendship, I think this movie would be much stronger. The fact that they didn't, this movie really doesn't have much of a foundation to stand on. I just found it to be kind of like vapid nothingness, almost.
Good word.
Which is a shame because, like I said, they're definitely trying to do things here. They just don't succeed on any front. Like they try to do too much with their with too little, and we kind of talked about their audiences of what this is intended for, and it's it was just them trying to do too much with too little, or too much. They're just trying to do too much. So objectively, I think this is also going to be a 1.5.
Wow.
Dang.
This has left a mark on Reddit.
This
And
is
Spinks
not,
at
this
this
is not
point.
good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Crimson.
All right. Subjective. I am never watching this again. Not with anybody.
Tell us how you really feel.
Okay, I will not watch this again. It was not enjoyable. Dale just bugged me. Voice and actions. And he's a kind of a big part of this movie, you know? So that was a good chunk that was just irritating to me. The cop lady, I didn't enjoy her performance. I did relate to Chip every time he was annoyed by something like rap music and stuff, or by some actions Dale did. So I guess little positive for that little bit. I liked Putty. He was enjoyable. And what did I enjoy? Anything else? The nostalgia stuff was just, it was so easy surface level stuff that I didn't retain any of it. I didn't really care. I think Looney Tunes Back in Action and Who Framed Roger Rabbit
There you go.
did everything better than this. And those are pretty old compared to this at this point, especially Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So if you're going to emulate something, which this was definitely trying to do, try to do it better. And that's something they did. I don't think they even tried. I think they just tried to take the concept and did not try to better it. Which leaves bad taste. So for me, this one was hard. It's between a 3.5 or 4. So I think by the end of this, I'm giving it a 3.5. Subjectively. Objectively, the plot, it was simple. Find a friend, boom. I feel like the Peter Pan's storyline could have been good, but it was not very well built upon. We get the one little bit, and that's it. And the whole thing that pushes the story forward, which is the stupid bootleg machine, doesn't work in any facet of its existence. Everything related to that thing is bad. It exploding and still working, the magnet, the lasers within, the restraints being different sizes, the trophy wall, I don't know how that works. So everything just does not work in this film. They do try, as we've all admitted, there were some funny moments. I liked the Uncanny Valley. I liked Seth Rogen's character. We didn't talk about him much. He was stupid. He is Seth Rogen. It makes sense. Good for the story. But overall, it was a mess. So I'm giving it an objective 3.5. No, 3. Objective 3. I think there's more wrong with this than Jurassic World, but just by a little bit.
Mm.
That's it.
All right, my turn. So I picked this, and I was not really convinced that this would be a very good choice for this season, just because when I saw it, most of the feelings I had for, even though I didn't like it, I was just felt like, okay, this is just kind of boring. Like it's just boring or lazy, and I'm like, okay, well, but I couldn't think of really anything else that I had watched or that I'd watched by myself that nobody, that we hadn't done on the podcast that was really bad. So I, went with it, and I guess I'm glad I did, because I'm glad nobody's given this a 4 or a 5 5 yet. I've I, I'm gonna try to try to give a little bit different, I guess, opinion, while still keeping, because I don't like it, so it's still gonna be the same kind of opinion. But uh, I'm not against trying new things if if you can, and kind of meet it. So I do think, unfortunately, these kind of movies have to exist in order for us to get better things. It's kind of like it's bad, but I would rather them try something and have it be bad than to never try anything new and have everything just be cookie cutter. So unfortunately, this one has to be on the sacrificial pyre for being really, really bad.
Perfectly
I
balanced,
like,
as all things
yeah,
should be.
yeah, I like some of the voice acting. I think some of the more meta jokes work. Unfortunately, those are the ones that are most likely to not age very well. Unfortunately, but it's par for the course. Uh, Uncanny Valley might be, I think, one of my favorite little jokes. That's probably one of the more niche, but that usually is how it goes. And the Seth Rogen bit, it's weird to say that Seth Rogen had one of the better parts in this movie. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, aiming high.
Yeah. I do like Andy Samberg in this. I think his voice works very well. John Mulaney's, like I said, I thought was a little bit less so, but I can kind of at the time both were kind of rising, but were still readily available. So for fairly, I guess, less expensive. So I can kind of understand a little bit why, but I think it could have been done better with some other people. Sorry to say. The writing already been touched on is just sort of mostly by the books. I think uh, paint by numbers sort of tropes and references and stuff, which on its own isn't bad, but there's so much in here that's also just kind of brushing against it. It just feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. Um, uh, I I think the animation department and the VFX people did the best they could with what they had. And unfortunately, they just had to work on something that just doesn't really work very well. Overall, I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this 2, just because I think some of the basic elements of this are by themselves good, but put together just don't work. There is this movie. There is good in it, and there's good aspects, but I think if you in the way they put them together just doesn't fit. So it's 2.
One little bit before Springs goes on.
Mhm.
Forgot to mention the animation. Got my point through most of it, but I will say that is the reason why it's a 3 and not a 2. Because the animation.
Yeah.
Go on, Springs.
Oh boy, let's start with objective here. Objective. Multiple animation styles. It wasn't just stick to one. Like I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit only basically stuck to one type of animation style, and this one had maybe 5 different types, so it's a lot to express, and I thought that was very cool, especially since toons come in many forms and different ways of how they're animated throughout the years. So I think that was cool to portray, even though it gave some people like writer headaches. The story was very bland. Just the team trying to get back together, but it wasn't a full team until the end, and it was a mystery case, and there was a twist villain of Captain Putty, so it was okay. Ellie was a friend to Chippendale and helped them, and was, I think, a red herring at a part when they couldn't tell who was the bad guy on the inside. I think Chip was fine. Chip was a fine character. He seemed pretty good in this toon world that's created. Dale was just really stupid. I think he was just really dumb and just being that dumb sidekick character because he felt like the dumb sidekick character, and they just stuck with it. They didn't really give him a redemption arc or change himself in some way, unless you want to say him sacrificing himself for the cannonball to save Chip, but that kind of seems like something he'd do anyway because it's Chip. The lighting, we already touched on that with the shadows at parts. At least it was there and present at parts. Otherwise, they look like stickers on the screen, and at times maybe look like they're floating. I really like the I'm guessing it's a practical effect of live action actually interacting with the cartoons. Like Ellie and Putty's fight had some VFX and actual physical changes, or at the very beginning when the teacher takes the headphones off of the toon student and they're actual like real headphones. I like the elements of that. The settings were fine. The cinematography was very just bland. It was fine. Nothing jarring or off-putting, but nothing like that was a cool shot kind of thing. It was very much reference overload, which really gave me the question of who's this target audience, and I think it's anyone and everyone. Like there's a little bit for anyone to enjoy, but there's just so much of it that it's off-putting when it's not something you enjoy is on screen. And overall, it's just it's okay. So I'm objectively giving it a 6.5. It definitely could be better, but I think objectively it also could be worse. And then subjective. Unfortunately, we talked about Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes Back in Action, and I go more with the Who Framed Roger Rabbit because it focuses on like the world of toons, which is what this kind of did. Looney Tunes Back in Action didn't really focus much on like where the Looney Tunes came from. They just kind of exist in the world. And unfortunately, this movie gave me more of a feel of like Happy Time Murders, which was like a childlike thing in an adult setting. And it wasn't necessarily an adult setting all the way throughout the movie, but it like the adult jokes here and there and tones and everything. It just gave me more of that feel, and I didn't quite care for Happy Time Murders. But what I am a bit of a sucker for is Disney. I do like Disney movies, and that's had a lot of Disney references. I do like animation and live action mixtures. I think those are just clever ways of portraying a movie of both types, rather than sticking to one or the other. And I like the Kingdom Hearts reference because I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. That's about it. That's all I really subjectively liked of this movie. So my subjective score is a 3. I don't ever need to see it again. I didn't need to see it again this time. I've seen the movie twice now. If it's on the background, I'll probably leave.
All right.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Should I read us out then?
Yes, please.
All right. As always, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Amazon, Castbox, and Pocket Casts. For our audio side and for our visual side, we're always on YouTube. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe anywhere and everywhere. Follow us on our socials too. Got a list of them, but I don't have that pulled up right now because we moved past that. So
Find a social, look us
fo-
up. We might be there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. As always, I have been a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon. I'm a character called Sinister Boy.
And I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.